Welcome to today's deep dive. Our mission for you today is to extract the most fascinating insights from our sources on Suppiluliuma I.
Right, the 14th century BCE Hittite king who essentially pulled his crumbling empire back from the brink.
Only to accidentally trigger his own tragic demise. Because before his reign, under his father, the empire was, actively collapsing.
Enemies were encroaching everywhere. Hattusa was nearly abandoned.
And Suppiluliuma stepped up, but not by waiting his turn. The sources show he usurped the throne.
Yeah, most likely by murdering the rightful heir.
Okay, let's unpack this. How exactly does an illegitimate usurper take a dying state and turn it into a military powerhouse so quickly?
Well, what's fascinating here is his complete overhaul of the Hittite military machine, specifically weaponizing their heavy three-man chariots for rapid expansion.
Right.
But his true genius wasn't just tactical, it was grand strategy. Take the one-year campaign.
Where the rival Mitanni Empire controlled the critical Syrian territories.
Exactly. Instead of pushing through the expected northern routes, Suppiluliuma led his forces on a massive, circuitous march.
They crossed the upper Euphrates.
And launched a devastating surprise attack from behind. It completely shattered the Mitanni power structure.
And to secure that newly won territory, he immediately began installing his own sons as local viceroys. He essentially redraws the geopolitical map.
He really did.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. While he's busy conquering Syria, he receives an absolutely desperate letter from Egypt.
From a queen widely believed to be King Tutankhamun's widow.
Right. She says her husband is dead, she has no son, and she vehemently refuses to marry a servant.
Which is such a striking detail.
So she begs Suppiluliuma to send one of his sons to marry her and become pharaoh. Considering Egypt's usual stance on foreign marriages, how unprecedented was this request?
Oh, completely unprecedented.
Yeah.
Egypt simply did not offer its royal women to foreign rulers. Suppiluliuma was actually so suspicious, he initially thought it was a trap.
Yeah, but after verifying her desperation, he agrees and sends his son, Prince Sanansa.
Tragically, the prince is assassinated en route.
Likely by an Egyptian faction desperate to prevent a Hittite from taking the throne.
Exactly. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, that single assassination triggers a catastrophic domino effect. A furious Suppiluliuma retaliates.
By launching massive revenge raids deep into Egyptian-held territory.
Dragging prisoners of war back to the Hittite heartland.
And those prisoners carried something invisible with them, a horrific plague.
Reading the sources, the scale of this epidemic is just staggering. It ravaged the Hittite population for 20 straight years.
And the dark irony is that it ended up killing Suppiluliuma himself, along with his immediate heir.
Leaving his youngest son, Mursili II, to pick up the pieces.
He's the one who wrote those famous texts known as the Plague Prayers. Can you break down the psychological weight of those prayers for us?
Absolutely. Mursili was agonizing over why his people were suffering this endless, devastating disease. In the texts, he heavily grapples with the idea of divine retribution.
Ultimately concluding the gods were punishing the empire for his father's original sin.
Right, that initial usurpation and murder that secured Suppiluliuma the throne in the first place. It's a profound look into the philosophical toll the epidemic took on the surviving leadership.
So what does this all mean? How do we synthesize all these sources into a cohesive takeaway for the listener?
The core takeaway is that Suppiluliuma I was an undeniably brilliant strategist. He engineered a massive, thriving empire through complex treaties, unmatched warfare, and strategically placing his sons as viceroys.
Yet his greatest tactical revenge brought a biological disaster to his own doorstep.
A disaster he simply couldn't outmaneuver, which is wild. And this raises an important question. What if Prince Sanansa had actually survived that journey?
Imagine a Hittite prince sitting as pharaoh of Egypt.
How would an unprecedented, unified Hittite-Egyptian mega-empire have completely rewritten the rest of human history?
We will leave you to ponder that as we close today's deep dive.